Hook, the Dover Interception, late June 2025. The busy Dover port, one of Europe's busiest gateways, buzzed with the usual flow of freight trucks and passenger vehicles. But amid the steady hum of activity, officers from the National Crime Agency, NCA, and Border Force were focused on one particular Lithuanian lorry that had just rolled off the ferry. Intelligence had flagged this vehicle for closer inspection. What happened next was a textbook example of coordinated law enforcement action. Swift, precise, and resolute. As the driver presented his documents, officers watched for any signs of deception. The lorry's paperwork appeared normal, but experience told a different story. It was the kind of vehicle that smugglers used regularly, hiding illicit cargo in cunning compartments, concealed beneath legitimate freight. When the order came, the lorry was directed to a secure inspection area. There, Border Force officers began a detailed search, scanning, tapping, peeling back layers of cargo. The tension was palpable. And then, the discovery. Hidden within the lorry's depths were 20 firearms, carefully packed but ready to be unleashed on the streets. Alongside them lay 320 rounds of ammunition, enough firepower to arm multiple gangs or fuel violent confrontations. But that was only the beginning. Buried beneath the weapons, officers found 170 kilograms of ketamine, a powerful and dangerous drug with a street value estimated at around 4.5 million pounds. Alongside the powdered narcotic were 4,000 tablets of MDMA, another popular but illegal substance, known on the streets as ecstasy. The scale of the haul was staggering. This wasn't a small-time shipment. It was a major blow to the UK's drug and arms trade. The driver was immediately detained, questioned, and handed over to the NCA for further investigation. This interception wasn't just about catching one criminal. It was about disrupting a network that threatened communities across the country. The sheer volume of drugs and weapons suggested links to wider international smuggling operations. How they made it this far, what routes they took, and who was behind it, these questions would soon unravel a story of global crime, local danger, and relentless law enforcement pursuit. The Lorry and Its Cargo. The Lithuanian Lorry, a seemingly ordinary freight truck, was carrying a deadly and lucrative load that underscored the complexity of modern smuggling operations. First and foremost were the 20 firearms. These weren't just crude handguns. The shipment included a variety of guns capable of inflicting serious harm. The presence of 320 rounds of ammunition suggested the weapons were ready for immediate use, not merely stockpiled. The arrival of such a cache was a stark reminder of the increasing militarization of UK's criminal gangs. Firearms smuggling fuel street violence, armed robberies, and territorial disputes that cost lives every year. Yet the firearms were only half the story. The 170 kilograms of ketamine represented one of the largest single seizures of this drug in recent UK history. Ketamine, originally developed as an anesthetic, has gained popularity as a recreational drug, known for its dissociative effects and potential for abuse. On the street, ketamine is sold in powder form and commands a high price, with this haul valued at approximately 4.5 million pounds. Alongside the ketamine were 4,000 tablets of MDMA, a synthetic drug often associated with nightlife and club culture. Known as ecstasy, MDMA is highly addictive and illegal, contributing to the public health crisis across the UK. The shipment's combination of firearms and drugs revealed a disturbing trend. Organized crime networks increasingly mixed drug trafficking with arms smuggling to strengthen their control and intimidate rivals. The lorry's cargo was meticulously packed, with drugs hidden in specially designed compartments, layered beneath legitimate goods. Such concealment techniques require significant planning and expertise, indicating the involvement of experienced criminals with access to international logistics. Border Force officers commented on the sophistication of the concealment, noting that the drugs and weapons were well hidden, making detection a challenge without targeted intelligence. This haul was more than just contraband. It was a snapshot of the dangerous intersections between global trade and criminal enterprise. The Smuggling Route. The journey of the Lithuanian Lorry to Dover was the final leg in a complex international smuggling operation, spanning thousands of miles in multiple countries. Lithuania, a Baltic state and a member of the European Union, has long been a transit hub for illicit goods moving between Eastern Europe and Western markets. Criminal networks exploit its strategic location and busy ports to traffic drugs, weapons, and other contraband. From Lithuania, the lorry likely crossed through Poland and Germany, countries with extensive road networks that connect to major European highways. Each border crossing presented a risk, both for smugglers and law enforcement agencies on high alert. Smugglers use a variety of tactics to evade detection: false documentation, hidden compartments, decoy cargo, and even bribery of officials. But heightened cooperation between European border forces and intelligence sharing has made these routes more dangerous for criminals. Dover, as the main port connecting continental Europe to the UK, is a critical choke point. Over 2.5 million freight vehicles pass through the port annually, making it both a vital economic artery and a prime target for smuggling. Border Force and the National Crime Agency have invested heavily in technology to combat illicit imports at Dover. This includes advanced scanning equipment, sniffer dogs trained to detect drugs and explosives, and extensive use of data analytics to identify suspicious patterns. The interception of this Lithuanian lorry was the result of months of intelligence gathering, surveillance, and coordination between UK authorities and their European counterparts. Yet despite these efforts, traffickers continue to innovate. They adapt routes, change tactics, and use new technologies to stay one step ahead. This seizure at Dover was a significant victory, but it also highlighted the ongoing cat-and-mouse game between law enforcement and criminal enterprises that spans continents. The crime network behind the load. The massive haul of weapons and drugs intercepted at Dover Port was not a random shipment. It was the product of a sophisticated criminal network operating across borders. Investigators from the National Crime Agency quickly identified connections pointing to an organized group based in Eastern Europe, with links stretching from Lithuania to the UK. Such networks operate like multinational corporations with clearly defined roles: suppliers, transporters, middlemen, and street-level distributors. These groups thrive on secrecy, using encrypted communications and cash transactions to avoid detection. Their reach extends beyond the shipment itself, influencing local gangs, corrupt officials, and even legitimate businesses that provide cover for illicit activities. The mix of high-value ketamine and MDMA with a cache of firearms suggests the network's dual focus: flooding UK streets with drugs while arming criminal gangs to maintain dominance and protect their supply lines. Experts warn that the combination of drugs and weapons increases the risk of violent confrontations as rival factions compete for control over lucrative markets. This fuels cycles of retaliation and crime that endanger communities nationwide. The NCA's operation disrupted a major link in the chain, but many questions remain. Who were the key players? How deeply embedded are these networks within the UK? And what new tactics will criminals adopt to continue their trade? Ongoing investigations aim to answer these questions, targeting not only the couriers and drivers, but also the masterminds orchestrating operations from behind the scenes. The seizure at Dover is a stark reminder that organized crime is a global challenge, requiring relentless cooperation and vigilance across borders. The operation and arrests. The interception of the Lithuanian lorry at Dover was the culmination of months of meticulous planning, intelligence gathering, and interagency collaboration. The National Crime Agency, NCA, worked closely with Border Force officers to monitor suspect vehicles and persons of interest. Through a combination of surveillance, informants, and data analysis, law enforcement identified the lorry as a high-risk target. On the day of the operation, officers were strategically positioned across the port to ensure a swift and secure stop. The moment the lorry rolled off the ferry, it was guided into a designated inspection zone, away from public view. The search was thorough and painstaking. Border Force officers utilized advanced scanning technology, including X-ray and gamma-ray machines, to detect hidden compartments within the vehicle. Sniffer dogs trained to identify narcotics and explosives assisted in pinpointing the exact locations of concealed contraband. As the officers uncovered the weapons and drugs, the scale of the haul became apparent, sparking a coordinated effort to secure the site and preserve evidence. The lorry driver was immediately detained and taken into custody for questioning. Further investigation revealed links between the driver and wider criminal networks, including contacts in Lithuania and the UK. Subsequent raids and arrests followed in multiple locations, targeting warehouses, safe houses, and distribution points connected to the operation. Authorities seized additional quantities of drugs, firearms, and cash, dismantling key elements of the smuggling network. The success of this operation was the result of seamless cooperation between agencies, demonstrating the importance of intelligence sharing and coordinated action in disrupting complex criminal enterprises. The impact on UK's crime scene. The seizure of 20 firearms, 320 rounds of ammunition, 170 kilograms of ketamine, and 4,000 MDMA tablets at Dover sent shockwaves through the UK's law enforcement and criminal justice communities. This unprecedented interception highlighted the scale and sophistication of modern smuggling operations targeting the United Kingdom. Firearms trafficking remains one of the most pressing challenges for UK authorities. Illegally imported weapons fuel gang violence, armed robberies, and homicides, particularly in urban centers such as London, Birmingham, and Manchester. Each gun seized represents a potential violent act prevented, and this interception at Dover removed a significant arsenal from circulation. Equally alarming was the sheer volume of ketamine, a drug increasingly popular on UK streets, but also associated with severe health risks and addiction. Valued at approximately £4.5 million, the ketamine haul alone represents a massive financial blow to criminal organizations profiting from narcotics. MDMA tablets, popular in nightlife and club scenes, continue to pose public health concerns, contributing to emergency hospital admissions and fatalities linked to drug misuse. This seizure disrupted the supply chains of organized crime groups operating across Europe and the UK. It sent a clear message that the government and law enforcement agencies are intensifying efforts to tackle both drug and weapons trafficking. The operation also exposed vulnerabilities in criminal networks, providing valuable intelligence to further investigations. By targeting such high-value shipments, authorities aim to dismantle not only the supply but also the infrastructure that supports these illicit trades. However, experts warn that traffickers will adapt, shifting routes, altering methods, and seeking new ways to evade detection. As such, continuous vigilance and international cooperation remain crucial. The Dover interception serves as both a triumph and a reminder. The fight against smuggling is ongoing, requiring sustained resources, innovation, and determination. Legal proceedings and sentences. Following the dramatic seizure at Dover, the driver of the Lithuanian Lorry and several individuals linked to the smuggling operation faced swift legal action. The National Crime Agency, NCA, and Border Force collaborated closely with Crown Prosecution Service, CPS prosecutors to build an airtight case. Evidence collected during the operation, including the firearms, drugs, surveillance footage, and intercepted communications, formed the backbone of the prosecution. Court proceedings began within weeks, underscoring the urgency and seriousness of the charges. Those involved faced multiple counts, including possession with intent to supply controlled substances, illegal importation of firearms and ammunition, and conspiracy to traffic drugs across international borders. Given the sheer volume of drugs and weapons involved, prosecutors pushed for the maximum sentences allowable under UK law. The case drew significant media attention, highlighting the ongoing battle against cross-border organized crime. In preliminary hearings, defense attorneys attempted to challenge the legality of the searches and the chain of custody of evidence, but the court upheld the validity of the operation. Several defendants pleaded guilty, recognizing the strength of the evidence against them. Sentencing was severe. The lorry driver received a lengthy prison term, reflecting his key role in transporting the contraband. Other associates involved in coordinating logistics and distribution were similarly convicted and given substantial sentences. While precise details of each sentence remain confidential due to ongoing investigations, legal experts note that these prosecutions serve as a deterrent, signaling to criminals that such activities will not be tolerated. The successful prosecution further disrupted the criminal network responsible for flooding UK streets with drugs and guns, though authorities acknowledge that continued efforts are necessary to dismantle remaining cells and prevent future trafficking. Conclusion. The seizure of firearms and millions worth of drugs at Dover in June 2025 marked a significant victory for British law enforcement, but it was also a stark reminder that the battle against organized crime is far from over. Borders remain the front line in the ongoing war against smuggling networks that exploit global trade routes to flood UK streets with weapons and narcotics. Criminals adapt quickly, shifting routes, employing new concealment techniques, and leveraging technology to evade detection. The collaboration between the National Crime Agency, Border Force, and international partners proved essential in dismantling a major shipment and striking a blow against dangerous criminal enterprises. Yet the underlying social and economic factors that fuel demand for illegal drugs and the proliferation of firearms require equal attention. Prevention efforts, community engagement, and cross-border intelligence sharing must continue to evolve. As the UK government invests in better technology, training, and legal tools, the message is clear. The fight at the borders is relentless, and victory depends on vigilance, cooperation, and determination. This operation in Dover was not just a seizure, it was a statement that no matter how deep the networks run, law enforcement will continue to track, intercept, and bring to justice those who threaten public safety. The battle continues, on roads, at ports, and in the shadows where crime tries to hide.